Here we are on the front of our Jayco Precept. We are going to do a technical walkthrough or tutorial on your unit, just like you would get on the data delivery, walking you through the items on it, a little bit of how-tos on the different items. If you want a deeper dive on these components or you have other questions about it, feel free to leave it in the comments section, or you can check out our other videos in the helpful hacks section of our Great American RV YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, and comment and support the channel. We want to start on the front here, of course, under our hood. Here we're going to have our engine access. We'll go ahead and disconnect you there so we can take a quick look. Just like you would have on any other vehicle, we're going to have all of our engine components in here. Now, main thing we want to show you is we do have our 12-volt battery under here. Now, this one is going to be just for our chassis and some of the components that feed off of that. We do have a couple of 12-volt breakers under there. We have our coolant right here, our engine oil, as well as our transmission fluid right there, our air cleaner, brake fluid. That's pretty much it. Windshield wiper fluid under there. So regular maintenance to be done on your engine, just like any other vehicle. That is customer maintenance, and we do need to monitor that and maintain those components regularly. All right, on the driver's side, we're going to notice that we do have cameras in our side mirrors right here. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to our monitor on the inside of how that works. Our first compartment is just a little bit of storage there. Let's take a closer look at our generator here. All right, here we have our Yamaha generator. On the front here, we can see we have our start and stop button. Now here on the outside, we can also operate this from the inside, but we'll go over the controls out here first. So start, stop. Our stop is also a prime button. So it's a gas generator. It's going to pull off of your fuel tank for your chassis. And we hold down that stop button, and what it's doing is kicking on the fuel pump. It is now priming the engine and preparing it to start. That prime is very necessary in the colder months and prepping that unit to get ready to start. So once it is primed up, we hold down that start button and it will crank up. Now we do have a meter right here that's going to give us our hours on the generator, so that's your run time. Our maintenance is based on the hours on that generator, so we need to refer to our owner's manual as far as when we need to change the oil, change the air filter, and do other maintenance. Once again, customer maintenance, you will need to pay to have all that stuff done if you don't do it yourself. Now we're also going to have a couple of lights up here, AC1, AC2, and fault, and then our oil light, AC1, AC2, are going to be our loads. That's the power output, so it's going to indicate and let you know when those loads are good. And then a fault light, of course, is going to let us know, hey, we have a fault. Oil light would be that we have low oil or it needs to be checked. Now we can remove this cover off of here, gain access to some of our components in here for maintenance. When we run this generator, we need to make sure that this cover is on. That way the airflow goes properly and this engine doesn't overheat. Now in here in our bottom corner right here, we do have an on-off master switch for our 12 volts. We'll disconnect you there so we can take a closer look. So we see that switch off to the left, that is 12 volt master off and on. So basically it shuts down power to our generator, and to the right of it, we have our breaker. So that breaker is a 12 volt breaker. So that would basically be controls as far as starting and stopping this unit. So if we have no 12 volts, we need to check that on off switch first and then check and make sure that 12 volt breaker is not tripped. We're also going to have a power mode over here to the side, 2600 or 2900 as far as the output for that generator. Then on the left side, we're going to have our 30 amp breakers. So we talked about two loads, AC1, AC2. This is a dual pole generator, so we're going to be putting out two legs of 110. And in the event that they trip, of course, this is where we're going to come to reset it. So you would basically be running your generator and then notice that we don't have any power on the inside of our unit. We have checked our breakers on the inside and everything seems okay. We want to come out here and check these two breakers right here and make sure they're not tripped. If they are, shut down some of the appliances on the inside of your unit, come out here, reset them, and then kick them back on, and that should take care of the problem. Your oil dipstick over there to the left right there, so we can check our oil and make sure we have the proper level as well. All right, behind our generator, we'll have our next compartment here, which will just be storage, but down below it, we will have a gray tank output right there. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to our dump station. on the back end. Moving on, we do have our pass-through storage right there. We have more storage down here at the bottom. Next one is our control center for all of our water fixtures. We'll talk more about that in a second, but we do have our gray tank drop right here. This is our valve to be able to drain out that gray tank there we talked about in the front. Now also down below that we have our low point drains. Our low point drains are going to be used whenever we winterize our unit. And then we also have our drain port for our fresh tank. Now our fresh tank is going to be filled through here as well. That's our onboard water storage. Now it's very important to know that this does add extra weight to our unit. So if we're not using it or we don't need it, go ahead and drain that water out. We definitely don't want to leave it in there for an extended period of time because that water will become stagnant after a while. So drain that fresh tank water out whenever we don't need it and try to only bring whatever you need. Here we have our water filter right here. You do have a tool to be able to put on there, unscrew it. You have two valves on either side. If your water is pressurized from either your water pump or your city water, you want to shut those valves off. That way it's depressurized, then break the seal, and you can go ahead and change out that water filter. Let's go over the operation of our system right here for all of our water controls. All right, so we have our water control system right here at the top, satellite cable for your cable connections going into your camper. Have a city water connection here, black tank flush right here. The black tank flush is going to go over how we kind of clean out our black tank, which is our sewage tank. We'll get to that when we get to the dump valves. Our city water connection is going to be where we hook our water up from our campsite. If we have a water bib there or from our house, that'll supply water to our fixtures on the inside of the unit. It can also fill our tank, so on and so forth, but that's where that hose connection would go. Of course, we have our hot and cold. We have a quick connect here for that blue coiled hose, so on. So let's talk about our fixtures up here. Our dry camping. In order, if we have that fresh tank filled up, in order to get to dry camping, we would have to go to this configuration right here, and that would pull water from that tank and supply it to our water fixtures, but we would have to kick on our water pump right here. Our water pump is 12 volt activated, and it will go ahead and prime our unit and then keep running as long as we are in demand for it, and turn our faucet off. That pump will shut off shortly after. So just keep that in mind. You're going to hear it vibrating, perfectly normal. It's supplying water to us. But if we're certain that all of our fixtures are off and you hear that system vibrating and pumping, we need to go check our system, because one of two things: we're out of fresh water in our tank, or we have a leak in our system and water is going somewhere. So at which point we want to go ahead and shut this off and check those two things. From there, we'll jump over to our power fill tank, which is how we would fill that freshwater tank. So we would need a water source, so that would mean the water hose from the campground or from your house, whatever. We would go to power tank fill, that option right there, and then turn that water on, and that will begin to fill that tank. So we can monitor that from the inside with that monitor in there to make sure we don't overfill it. If we do overfill it, it's okay. We do have an overfill hose on that tank that spits the water out on the ground. So if you see water everywhere, I'm gonna come over here, shut it off, because that tank is full. We also have our city water connection. So this is if we have water at the campground or we're using it at our house, whatever, we would turn to this configuration, turn the city water on, supplies water straight to our fixtures. So if we're using that, we want to turn our water pump off. We don't want to have that on while we have city water hooked up. There's just no need to have it on, so just shut it off. We have winterize and sanitize. We'll kind of talk about those in sequence. These are our two different valve setups. So winterization is when we are prepping our unit for wintertime. Extreme cold temperatures, we're pumping RV antifreeze into our unit. Sanitize is if we are sanitizing our fixtures on our unit with a mixture of bleach and water. Both of them have a similar process, just different valve configurations, because this one is going into our tank, this one is going into our fixtures. Okay, so with the exception of where they're going, the process is the same as far as how we use it. We would hook a water hose up to this, we would cut the other end off and run it into a tank of RV antifreeze, kick our water pump on, and that would supply it to our fixtures if we're under winterization. If we are doing sanitizing our system via the tank, then we do the same thing, water hose here,
Then the other end goes into a bucket of bleach and water solution, kick our water pump on, it sucks it out of there, supplies it to our fresh tank. Then from there, we can turn our fresh tank pump on, go to dry camp, then it would supply it to our fixtures. So whatever way, which way you go. If we do winterize, that's where our low point drains come in to check. We need to open those up, drain all the water out of our system. There are more steps into winterization. You can find it in your owner's manual or a video under Hap's Helpful Hacks. Oh, and the little red switch right here is for our light up top. That wraps up everything on our water control system here.
All right, so next behind our axle, we do have our other port right here for our gray and black. We'll shine a little bit more light on this situation here. So that is our outboard port right there. We talked about we have the one in the front. We can go ahead and get a Y pipe to be able to connect both of these hoses together so we can drain everything out at the same time. But we're gonna have our black and gray tank on this one. So this is our black tank signified by the black valve, our gray tank signified by the gray valve. Our output is rotational, so we can go ahead and turn this wherever we need to turn it to go ahead and suffice for our hose. Now our black tank is going to be our sewage from our toilet. Our gray tanks are going to be from our kitchen sink, our shower, our sink in our bathroom, so on and so forth. So if we have the hookup there at the campsite and our hose is going out, we can go ahead and leave our gray tank valves open all the time, let that water drain out, so we don't have to worry about keep coming out here and opening it up when those tanks get full, because of course showers, it's gonna fill up fairly quick. Our black tank, however, because that is sewage coming from our toilet, of course we're gonna have solids in there and toilet paper. We wanna make sure water stays in that tank. If not, we'll end up with what's called a dry tank or a poop pyramid, and we definitely don't want that. So we wanna make sure that we have this valve closed until we are ready to dump. Now, when we go to dump, we need to make sure that we flush our tank out properly. So we have our hose hooked up, ready to dump. We pull that black tank valve open, we let everything drain out. We hook our water hose up to our black tank flush over there by our water controls, and then we go ahead and let that water run. That is going to lead to a spray port on the other side of this tank, and begin to spray down that tank and help push some of those solids to the valve to go ahead and drain out. Now that's how the owner's manual is going to suggest to do it. There are some pro tips on black tank flush that we have in our helpful hacks section if you want to go check that out. But make sure once we are done flushing out that system, we go ahead and shut our water off on our black tank flush, close this valve off, go to our toilet, hold down that pedal, and put several gallons of clean water in there along with our chemicals. That way any residue or anything that's left in that tank doesn't dry up, and on the drive home, that water will bounce around and kind of knock that stuff down to the bottom. Moving on, we do have our fill for our gas tank right there. Our last compartment here is going to be where our 50 amp service is. We have our 50 amp service plug. This is a twist lock plug up here with our compartment here, made it removable. That way you can just drop that in through here, coil up your line, and go ahead and throw it back in there without having to feed it all the way through like that. So that's pretty nice. We want to hook this in first, put that little ring, retainer ring on there, tighten it up so no kids playing around accidentally pull it out, doesn't leave that plug loose for any arcing. So we plug that in first, and then we plug into our campsite from there. We want to do that in that order, that way we don't cause any arcing on this plug right here when we plug it in and any damage to that plug. We'll see a tag right here for low point drain, so that means we do have a couple more low point drains here on that back frame. We can see, once again, having to do with winterization. We'll open those up to go ahead and drain that out. Right here we have our Dometic water heater. This is going to be a tanked water heater. We'll open it up, we can see we do have propane, and then we're gonna have electric on here as well. We'll go over more operation on that in the inside. All right, on the back of our unit, of course, we have our backup camera, which will sync with our monitor there in the front. We can see behind us while we're driving or backing up. Down here at the bottom, we have our receiver hitch, as well as our 7-way plug to a trailer, car, whatever we want behind us. Now, of course, we also have our factory supplied ladder back here that's gonna gain access to our fiberglass roof. Now, it's important to gain access up there so we can check our sealants around all of our vents, our side trims, everything like that. We need to check that every 60 to 90 days. We also want to check all of our trim on our sides of our unit, front cap, back cap, and sides, windows, our gaskets around our doors, all that stuff every 60 to 90 days. This is considered customer maintenance. We're looking for cracking, peeling, deterioration of the sealant on the sides or the roof to ensure that we're not allowing any water to enter into our unit and damage it. If we do, that is going to be on the customer to have those repairs done. Manufacturers aren't going to participate if we're not keeping up with our maintenance. So if we notice any cracking, peeling, deterioration of that sealant, we need to clean it, put the proper sealant on there to reseal it. It's also a good idea to go ahead and wash that roof once or twice a year to keep up with maintenance on it. It will help keep the sides of your unit a lot cleaner as well, and then that'll give us a better look at our sealant up there to be able to investigate for any cracking, peeling, or deterioration. Moving over to our passenger side, of course, we have our side camera in that mirror right there too. Front compartment is going to be more storage. We do have this little piece right here. This is to go ahead and pull our lug nuts off of this simulator cover right here. So we have aluminum rims, but we have this tin cover right here for decorative. We'll notice on these lug nuts, there's a little notch on this one, but no notch on this one. So you're gonna have several of them that have those notches. We put this on here, turn that T-handle to be able to remove those off of there, and that gains the access to our regular lug nuts to remove and replace that tire. We're gonna go over our entry door stuff before we step inside. We'll move on. Our first compartment right here is just more storage. Our third compartment is going to be more storage with that pass-through that we talked about on the other side. Our fourth compartment, more storage. And our fifth compartment is where all of our 12-volt components and our propane tank are gonna live. So we're gonna see a little bit of plumbing coming in for our washer dryer setup in that slide out. We're also gonna notice all of this 12-volt component stuff right here. Now this piece right here, that is going to be our solenoid for our disconnect. We're also gonna see multiple breakers in here. All these ones that with the red caps on them that you see, these are gonna be automatic resettable breakers. So that means that those may trip due to thermal, meaning they got too hot due to being overamped. Now these reset on their own. There's nothing you need to do to be able to reset those. Just give it a little bit of time, maybe 30 seconds or so, and they'll reset. Now these ones you see with the blue buttons on them right here, if they are tripped, you'll see that little yellow lever sticking out right there. Try to shine my light right. The yellow lever sticking out right there, you'll notice it needs to be reset. We go ahead, click that yellow lever up, and it resets that system. Now these are gonna go to multiple components on your unit, so if you have any issues with them, you just need to come out here and check and make sure that nothing is tripped. We're gonna see our LP quick connect right here. Pull that little cap off right there. See the quick connect we can go ahead and put in there. We need to make sure this valve is off in order to hook up our line right there. Otherwise, it won't allow you to push that back to quick connect. Once it is hooked up, turn that valve on for the gas to actually flow out. To disconnect, once again, just turn that valve off. Above that, we'll have our battery tray. Put that switch up, have our 12-volt batteries right here. Now these are gonna be for the house side. We talked about our chassis under the hood. For our engine, these are going to be able to operate everything on the inside of your house, from your 12-volt lights to the other 12-volt components that are in there. Now these are sealed batteries right here. There's no water to maintain like the one under the hood, so nothing to maintain for these batteries. We just need to make sure we keep them properly charged up. Now down here, we're gonna notice our actual propane tank. We have our fill level right here, so we can see what our level is. We'll also have one inside. Our open and close valve to turn that tank off and on to feed our unit. Our regulator is gonna be under this plastic cap right here. And then these two devices here are used for filling. Our next compartment is going to be more storage, but we also have our brains for our Go Power solar controller right here. We do have solar up on the roof. We'll have the monitor panel on the inside of our unit to go ahead and let us know what that solar is doing. Our last compartment is just more storage. Moving on, we do have our Dometic furnace right here. We'll talk about the controls of that when we get to our thermostat on the inside. Our outdoor TV with our outdoor speakers, 110 outlet right there. With our Connects TV, we do have a video that goes over Connects TV. It's got radio on it as well as Bluetooth functions, so it serves also as your outdoor radio. We're gonna notice a vent up on it. that is going to be over our gas stove in the inside of our unit. If we want to ventilate out for that hood vent, we need to make sure those two tabs are open, otherwise the air won't ventilate out. When we go to store it, we may want to go ahead and click those two tabs closed. That way no insects or rodents can build any nests in there. All right, so before we go inside, we're going to talk about our 12-volt awning right here. We can go ahead and run it out with our control panel on the inside. We'll go over where that is. Of course, we have awning lights up here too, all 12-volt powered on this awning. Now, important thing you need to know about your awning is we need to keep it in during heavy rainstorms, windstorms, stuff like that, because it could take this thing off like a parachute. If we allow too much water to get on here, it will collapse in the middle. So to avoid that, of course, we're gonna have it out for dew, maybe a little bit of light rain, stuff like that. Stuff's gonna get on it. But what we need to do is allow that water to be able to drain off of here. So we do that either at our front arm or our rear arm by squeezing the two tabs there at the top, pulling that arm and adjusting it down to where our awning is now pitched to the side at an angle to where that water can actually drain off and prevent any damage from happening. If any of that stuff kind of happens, it is going to end up being an insurance claim, not a warranty claim. So make sure we're prepping for any incoming storms. If you leave your camper for an extended period of time, just roll that awning in. It's better to do that for safety's sake rather than come back to a destroyed awning on your camper. Now the same rules apply for your entry door awning. That'll also be operational off of a separate switch right there we'll go over in a little while. But same thing, bringing in during rainstorms and stuff. There's no pitch on this one. It's lowered down enough and it's not wide enough to really accumulate a lot of water. So just keep it in whenever wind or heavy rainstorms come around. All right, on our entry door, of course, we do have powered steps on here. Those powered steps can go in and out when we open and close the door, or they can actually stay out. In order to do that, we can go ahead and flip our switch right here on the inside, turn them on, close that door, and those steps will go in and out. Now, if we turn it off, of course, the steps will stay out like they did the first time. If you leave it off by accident, you go to crank up your engine and put it in drive, those steps are going to automatically override and go in as a safety feature so you don't rip them off while you're traveling down the road. We do have a video on those entry steps, the powered steps, on our helpful hacks section. Good video to go watch too. All right, as we walk in our entry door off to the right, we have our first control panel to go ahead and operate some of our lights here. We have light master off and on. That'll go ahead and turn off all of your lights with the exception of some of your outside lights like your porch light and your awning. The ones with the arrows right here, these are dimmable lights. So if we go ahead and hold that down, that will go ahead and dim the lights there on the inside. And if you keep holding them down, that will go ahead and brighten it back up to what it was previous. But the longer you hold it, the more it will go back and forth between dim and bright. Down below that, we have same thing, awning and accent lights. Your accent lights are going to be these lights like under the steps and stuff like that. We have our awning extend and retract. That's going to be our larger awning there. We have our awning in and out right here. That is going to be over our entry door. Our power step switch right here, on and off. On if you want those steps to come in and out when you open and close that door. Off if you want them to stay out whenever that door opens and closes. This is our 12-volt battery disconnect right here. We want to use this whenever we store our unit unplugged. Just flip that switch, our red light will turn off, and it disconnects the batteries from our unit. Now we do that way we have stored power on our 12-volt batteries. Well, when we go back out there to pick that unit up, you can kick it back on and we should have power to the inside. Now, not everything is going to be cut off on this. We do have some safety devices on the inside of our unit, so there's still going to be a drain on your battery. So if we have the opportunity to plug our unit in, that's the best thing. Anytime we have our unit plugged in, we want to kick that switch on. That way our batteries are actually charging. If not, that converter system is not going to be charging those batteries. Even though you have lights on inside your unit, it'll be pulling off of your converter, which is not designed to do. It's designed to charge your batteries. So make sure we have that on anytime we're plugged in. Here we have our Xantrax inverter controller right here. This is going to be controlling our inverter system, obviously. Our inverter changes 12 volts to 110 power. So it's going to pull off those 12-volt batteries for our house side and turn it to 110 power to some of our outlets so we can control some of our appliances in our unit. Now this is meant for like smaller appliances and stuff on your 110 side. It's not going to run your entire unit, and of course it's also only going to run for as long as that battery voltage will let it.
Now there's different settings on here you can change. We have a video that takes a deeper dive into the Xantrax system that you can check out and have a better idea on how to use it. You do have a Bluetooth on here as well, so there's an app you can download and monitor this system from as well. All right, we're going to hop into our captain's seat right here. We have our equalizer system right here. We power it up. Now this is going to tell you if there's any errors right now. We don't have any, so your emergency brake needs to be engaged. Your ignition actually needs to be off, so if this light is lighting up, it means your ignition's on. Excessive slope is going to mean that your unit, as the pad, is at too much of a slope and you basically just don't have enough height on your jacks to get that unit level. Low voltage obviously means your batteries are low. Operating is going to mean that that system is currently doing whatever function you requested. Now, the simplest thing to do is hit auto level, let this system do its thing, and don't move around a lot inside your unit, otherwise it will throw off the leveling system. Once it's complete, it'll beep at you and shut off. We do have our all retract button right here. Whenever you're ready to hit the road, hold down all retract and those jacks will go ahead and lift up and retract from your system. Now, if you let this system sit for a little while, you come in your unit, when you crank your ignition up, you will have a little beeping alarm on here because it will drop down in pressure. All you have to do is come over here, hit all retract, and that system will go ahead and repressurize, and that alarm will shut off. We do have Bluetooth function on here. If you download the app for that EQ system, you can go ahead and link it to your phone and be able to operate some of this stuff from there. Moving on, we have our controls for our power mirrors right there on the side, USB port right there, our light functions just like any other Ford model would have. We also have mirror heat, fog lights, accent lights, and battery boost. A battery boost is basically a set of jumper cables that goes from your house batteries to your chassis batteries. So if your chassis battery is dead, you can hold down that function and it will basically connect those sets of batteries together to where it'll give your boost on the chassis side to be able to crank that engine up. We have our controls here to go ahead and change on the Ford programming up there as far as what you see on that screen, our cruise controls, all that stuff, all factory from Ford. We're also going to have our hazard lights, our traction control system off, so it's to be able to shut that system down. Then we have our radio system right here. So if we hit our home button here at the top, it's going to bring us to our main screen with our radio, Sirius, Bluetooth, all that stuff. Most people are going to ask, how do I get into Bluetooth? Hit that Bluetooth, hit connect, and then we're going to search for that device. It'll give us the directions here on how to hook that up. You do have Apple CarPlay and Android on this system to be able to display your phone stuff up on that screen. USB would be if you have any music or anything you want to go ahead and put in there, you would go ahead and put it in the USB on here and that would bring that up on there. Our settings brings us through some different device connections and everything. We can go ahead and add our phone and stuff through there as well. We have sound, other applications that we can download and so on. We're not going to take too deep a dive into that. If we go into our apps, we have our rear camera, our side cameras. Now our side cameras are going to activate when we turn our blinkers on. That'll go ahead and pop up here on the screen. Our rear camera will be active. If we just go to that, it can display what's behind us while we're traveling, but it'll also kick on whenever we hit reverse. Get back, we go to that home screen, and that's pretty much everything that we can show you on the radio. We have our track skip up here, or changing your radio station volume, so on and so forth. Not much more to go over with that. Down below we have lights for overhead right there. We have our accent lights once again. We have our generator start and stop. Now it's going to work the same way. We can hold down that stop button to prime our generator, then hold down the start to start it. We have our up and down for our front shade right there in the front for more privacy, and of course our AC controls just like any other Ford model. Now your chairs are turnable in here. We have a latch there on the right side. We push that backwards and then we can go ahead and turn our chair. Now we do have electric controls on this one. You will have to move that chair up a little bit to make it past that wall in some cases. Same thing, getting around that steering wheel can be a little difficult, but it's doable, just the back and forth and moving that backrest on there. Same thing on this side, that post is down at the bottom. You want to just go ahead and grab it, pull it backwards to unlatch, and then you'll be able to turn your chair. For your overhead bunk system, your control is here on the left. We have a little key to be able to pull out so kids can't play with it.
We turn it to unlock. We go ahead and run our button down right there, and that system will drop down. I have a couple of items up here. This one is going to be for a little table there at the bottom. We can pull that cap off, drop that in there, twist and lock it in. And then we have our table tray right here for cup holders. Last thing up here is going to be a little bumper pad. We can go ahead and drop into the two brackets right here to go ahead and keep the little kids from rolling out or anything like that. So to put this back, we hit our up button right here. We can go ahead and bring that system up. It is important, once we reach all the way to the top, we take our buckle right here and we buckle that up when we are in travel. That way this system has a little safety feature in there. If the motor were to ever go into a fault, that seat belt is going to keep that system from dropping down on the driver or passenger. On our recliners, we have that electric recline up and down right there, along with USB outlets there. We have our dinette booth here. Our dinette booth can drop down into a bed. We go ahead and take our cushions, we flip them up and out of the way. We come under our table here and we can lift up, pull towards you, and this table will drop down and it will sit below where those cushions are. And then you can add a bed by putting these back cushions up over that table. To put our table back, we lift up, we push back against that wall, and then we drop it in that system against the wall. We'll show you, we have little teeth right there. Those teeth, when you lift up and everything, come in and out of that bracket right there. To the left of our dinette booth, more storage up here. We also have our 110 fireplace. So that's gonna be electric heat. We'll go over a little information on that right now. Here we have our fireplace. We have a sensor right up here in the top right. We have to aim that remote at to turn it on. We have our Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature we can change to. And right here, this little flame icon is going to change the dimness of our flame. If we want to change the lighting of our flame, we hit the light bulb on the screen down here at the bottom, and it'll give you some different options right there. If we want to operate our heater on a timer, once again, electric heater, it is going to be this button right here. It looks like a clock, and when we push it, we can see some times pop up: 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all the way up to 8, and then it will go to 0 hours, letting you know that that timer is off. If we want to change our temperature, we'll use one of these two buttons at the bottom, and we can see once again we have a temperature down there, and we will go ahead and raise it until it kicks on, or lower it, we want it to kick off, or we can keep going until it says on, and that heater will stay running all the time. We kick it up one more time and it's going to say OF, meaning that that system is off. Down to the left of that fireplace is going to be your CO LP detector, and that's going to alarm you of any cautious gases for CO or LP that might be leaking in your unit. A little audible alarm will go off, let you know you need to vacate your unit. Little green light on here indicates it is powered on. This is hardwired into your battery system since it's a safety component, and so it's going to be powered up all the time. We do need to test that audible alarm by pushing that little test button right there, making sure it's working before we go out camping. And we also need to notice that we do have an expiration date on here. When that comes around, we need to go ahead and change that out. We're also going to have smoke detectors in our unit. Those smoke detectors are going to be powered by a 9-volt battery. So when daylight savings time comes around, we need to make sure we change those out and test the audible alarm on those as well. All right, behind our sofa, we have our TV lift. We go ahead and hit up. We have a little motor that's going to go ahead and bring that TV up. Once again, another connects TV. To the right of it, we're going to have our GFCI outlet right there. That's going to control all of those GFCIs, or certain GFCIs, I should say, in your unit in the wet locations. We're going to notice we have a reset button and a test button. So if this system were to ever trip, we're going to see a little green light right there. It is going to go off. So green means it's good. If you ever see this system trip, just come over here, reset it, that green light will kick back on. Most times this will trip out because we have too many heated appliances on there, like griddles, coffee makers, blow dryers and stuff, and it'll trip that system out, or it's because the outlet is wet. So if it ever consistently trips after you reset it, we need to check, make sure those outlets aren't wet, and we also need to check and make sure we don't have too much stuff plugged in. Now, talking about our TV system above our sink, we're going to see our controls for our TVs. We'll see over there we have our LNB1 and LNB2 from our roof satellite. So we are pre-wired if we want to add a satellite up there. Put our receiver in here, that coax will go to the receiver, and then HDMI out to our TV, which we already have a pre-wired HDMI there. You could use it for that, DVD player, PlayStation, whatever you want. Of course, we'll have outlets, and then we have our antenna boost right here. So the left one is antenna boost. That little green light indicates when it's on. When it turns off, it's off. And that antenna boost is going to help you pick up more channels when you're going off of an antenna. So if the campground doesn't have cable, then we want to make sure we turn that antenna boost on. We scan for antenna channels. It will help pick up more channels in that area. Now when we have cable at the campground, we're going to turn that off and then scan for cable channels there at the campground. Now to the right we have our Wi-Fi system. If we choose to upgrade that router system and have a router with us, we can go ahead and also subscribe to a cellular company, and that would power that system on. The cellular company would provide a Wi-Fi signal, or you could use that router to boost the signal at the campground if they have Wi-Fi there. So we'll go ahead and move, and we'll talk about our couch real quick before we move on our unit. This couch can give you more sleeping options. We go ahead and pull the cushions off right there. We lift this up, fold this, and then of course we have our legs there at the bottom. Drop that down, and then we can go ahead and drop our bed down, put our cushions back if we wish. We have more sleeping right there. Put it back, lift that up, lift this up. Then we're going to be able to fold our legs down, push in the middle, drop it in, and put our cushions back on the back. In our kitchen, we have our 110 microwave. We also have that hood vent that we talked about. Had that vent on the outside with 2 tabs, want to open out so that air can actually exhaust out. We have our 3-burner Furrion stove, glass cover right here to give you more counter space. Also how it needs to be when you travel. We're ready to cook. We want to go ahead and flip that up. We turn our propane on outside. Then we come over here and we can function our burners. So pick whatever burner you want. We have a flame icon on here. We turn it to that flame icon. We crank our igniter knob right there until that flame kicks on. Then we turn high, low, whatever we want to go ahead and cook. Now the thing about our propane is we can end up with air in our system. This happens whenever we either run out of propane or we just brought our unit out from storage. We have that propane tank turned off. That propane can dissipate in the line, and we'll end up having air in our lines. So when you first crank up that propane tank, or just got it refilled after being empty, you want to come over here and light our stove before we head out on that trip, or before we light up appliances like our furnace or our water heater to prevent them from going into a fault. So we can do that by simply turning it to that flame icon and lighting that up. Now it may take a little bit of time for that to crank. Once it cranks and lights up, then that system has pretty much bled all the air out of the lines. You let it burn for another 60 seconds just to go ahead and flush it a little bit more. You turn it off and then go activate your other propane devices. You only have to do that once, of course, unless you've shut your system down, stored it again, or you end up running out of propane. But do it that one time, that system will go ahead and be good to go. Now our oven, on the other hand, even after you bled the air out of that system, it's still going to take a little time the first time you crank it until all that air is bled out. But to do it, we turn to that flame icon once again, but this one we have to push that knob down and hold it down, crank it until it lights. Once it lights, we're holding this down for another 30 seconds or so, warming up the thermocouple in there, then we can let off. Our pilot should stay lit, then we turn it to the appropriate temperature that we want to cook at. That burner tube should light up and we're ready to go. If that pilot goes out after it's lit, just go back to step 1, relight it, and let it sit for a little bit longer before you get going. So we notice also we have these knobs that light up red. That's to let you know that gas is flowing in the system. If nothing is lit, it's a good notification that we need to come over here and turn this system off. Have a little switch that makes them blue, also lights up our oven. You flip it up, it'll just be the knobs here at the top. I have our residential refrigerator. This one is GE. It is going to be a 110 fridge. So that means we need to run our inverter system on our unit while we're traveling down the road in order for this to stay powered up. Now keep in mind that will pull off of your batteries, but don't worry, your engine will be running, that alternator will be charging your batteries while you're traveling down the road. You also have the option to crank your generator up. If you have other items you run off of 110 that inverter won't support, your generator will also provide 110 to your refrigerator as well. Everything else on here is
pretty normal. You have your refrigerator and freezer setting right here as far as your temperatures. Of course, water and ice on here as well. Now, with that being said, we have our ice and stuff here in the freezer. Whenever we defrost our unit, we want to make sure we get all the ice out of that system and wipe everything down, defrost that freezer completely, wipe down our refrigerator if we decide to shut our refrigerator down. Reason being is that water is going to leak, it's going to leak out, and it's going to damage wood components around that fridge. Manufacturers aren't going to participate in that kind of repair. So we need to make sure that we are defrosting, wiping everything down, get all that water out of there. Otherwise, it's going to cause some damage for your unit. We also have this travel latch down here. I want to go ahead and flip that one and travel. That way these doors don't pop open and your stuff goes everywhere. Right behind our refrigerator, we have more storage in here, but we also have our washer dryer connections. If we want to go ahead and put that combo in here, we have our hot and cold and our drain right there as well. In our bathroom, fairly cut and dry, we have our shower, our toilet, our sink, and then we're also going to have a vent up top right here, controllable from our little pad right here on the side. We want to turn that vent fan on when we take a shower to help get heat and humidity out of here, reduce the risk for mold and mildew. Our shower is going to operate like a normal shower. We'll go ahead and have hot and cold right here. We have a little knob to be able to shut that valve off up at the top. We generally use this when we are dry camping. We're trying to conserve the amount of water we are pulling out of our fresh tank as well as the amount of water we're putting in our gray tank. And to do that, in between lathering up and rinsing off, we can go ahead and just flip that switch to off, shut the shower head off there, and we won't have to worry about keep trying to find that sweet spot on our hot cold every time we shut our shower off and on. On our toilet, we're going to have a foot pedal there on the side. That's going to operate our toilet. Push it down. That's going to open our valve, drop our sewage down into our black tank. So we talked about that. Our black tank, we always need to make sure we have water in there. Whenever we flush our tank out, we just hold that pedal down. Water is going to come out of that toilet, start filling that tank, and then of course we drop our chemicals in from there as well. Now, when we're talking about sewage, we're talking about number 1 and number 2, liquids and solids. Now, for liquids, we go ahead and hit that pedal, send it down the drain. Solids, we want to barely push that pedal down right there until water starts coming out, and we're going to notice that valve just start to open up. We want to make sure it doesn't, okay? So push it down enough to where the water comes out, we start filling that bowl. Want to fill about half to 3/4 of the way. That way there's enough water in the bowl to help push those solids all the way down the drain into that tank, and we prevent any clogging in there. The only other 2 things we're putting in here is RV toilet paper, which we need to make sure we use. That way it decays properly in that tank and it flushes out well. And then also our chemicals in there too. In our hallway, we're going to have our main touchscreen control panel right here. So we're on our home screen. This will give you some of the same controls we saw right by our entry door, our light master on and off. We can also adjust our lights there. Same thing, we have arrows up and down. That means those are dimmable lights. So we can dim those lights if we wish. We have our thermostat right here where it tells us what our current temperatures are in our unit for the rear and the front. We have our water heater for electric and gas. And we also have our fresh gray, gray 2, black, and LP tanks. That'll give you the levels of all those systems. We also have our water pump, our tank heaters, our house and chassis battery levels, as well as our generator and our automatic generator start system. So let's go back to our electric water heater right here. We kick that on, that is going to turn on the electric side of our water heater. Pretty simple. If we're plugged into 110 or a generator's rolling, we can go ahead and use electric. If we need to go ahead and use gas, we make sure our propane is on. We bled the air out of our system, kick that on, and our gas will kick on. Now, no matter which one you use, make sure that water heater has no air in the tank. It is full of water. So to do that, we turn our hot water on at our sink. Make sure we have bled all the air out of those lines as well. Otherwise, that can cause damage to our heating components on the inside. Over here, once again, we talked about the levels for our tanks. We have our water pump. Our water pump is going to pull from that freshwater tank. We go ahead and click it on. It's going to pull water from that tank and supply it to all of our fixtures. Now, we use that when we don't have a city water connection. If we do have a city water connection, turn it off. Our next is our tank heaters. That's going to be a 12-volt mat on our tanks. That'll go ahead and heat those up in extreme cold temperatures so the liquids inside there don't freeze up. We talked about our house and chassis. That'll give you the voltage there.
And then we also have our generator start stop, same thing as what we have in the front and the outside to be able to start and stop that system. We're also going to have our hour meter that's going to tell you what the current hours on that system are. Our AGS, our automatic generator start. Now we're going to go into that. We're going to have some more settings on here that we can talk about. So this is enabling our system. We hit enable. Of course, we heed our warning on there as far as if we are in any unventilated areas. If that generator kicks on, it is going to cause have some exhaust with carbon dioxide. We hold down that enable button for 6 seconds, come over here, and we can go ahead and change all of our settings on here. So what we use this for is if we store our unit unplugged, this can go ahead and monitor our current voltage on our battery, kick that generator on, and it will charge that battery up. So we can choose to start that at whatever voltage we want, 11.7, we can change it to 11.9, whatever. Have our time at start volts, which means that it needs to be at 11.8 for at least 60 seconds before that generator can kick on. That will go ahead and prevent it for if any high amperage items come on. It lowers that for maybe 10 seconds and then it goes back up. It doesn't kick that system back on right away. So we can change that if we want. We have our minimum generator run time. So that means that once it kicks on, because of this voltage being low, that system will kick on for at least 15 minutes and run, or it will run until this system gets to the proper voltage or our time at stop volts. So that means that it will either reach that voltage or it will reach our max generator run time of 720 minutes and then shut down. Our time at stop volts, that's going to be how long it's been at 13.5. So 13.5 is charging voltage. That is going to mean that your batteries are charging when that generator is running. So it doesn't mean they're actually charged. So basically this is saying, hey, I want my batteries to charge for 2 hours. If you want it to charge any less, then you can go ahead and drop it down, but 120 minutes is going to be your max. Your generator start retries would be 5. So that system would shut off at 5. Of course, we can go ahead and adjust that with the maximum, once again, being 5. It'll give you 40 seconds between every retry of that generator. And then, of course, we can set our quiet time right here on the side with 10 p.m. shutting off, 8 a.m. starting up, so on and so forth. We can change all that if we want. Once again, giving you your generator hours as well. If we want HVAC triggers, that means it will pull off of our thermostat. So we'll click over to our thermostat real quick. If we have our thermostat set to 69 and it is within a range away from that, like this one right here, we're at 77 in the front, that AC will kick on and go ahead and cool our unit down to 69 degrees, and that will all be based off of our auto generator start settings. So once again, we're still going to be running off of our run times, our quiet times, all that, but our HVAC will be the trigger for that system. If you want to do both, you can do both as well. So our next screen after our home screen is our electrical. Kind of the same stuff. We have our voltage for our system. We have our generator start, stop, so on and so forth. Our automatic generator start system, our triggers for both of those. Once again, it's all just kind of redundant stuff. We have our solar. It will give us the voltage coming into our unit, our amperage being pulled off of it, as well as our watts being pulled in from our solar as well. We do have that Go Power solar set up. On this screen, it will give us the same thing, our voltage, our amperage, our wattage. This will give us our status for our controller. At this point, there's no faults in our system. This will give us a history as far as how our solar is operating over the past few days. And then we can also go into a setup. Our setup will allow us to change our battery type from AGM to lithium or flooded or gel. So depending on what type of batteries you have in this system, that is going to be where we change that, and of course our amp hours as well. Once we're happy and satisfied, of course we do have 2 batteries on this system, so we can go ahead and configure both. Once we're satisfied, we hit that return. It's going to bring you back to your main screen. I'm not going to take too deep a dive into solar. That's a whole nother ball game of subject right there, but this is where we can monitor it if we want to monitor how that solar is doing. Our next pad is going to be lights. Once again, a lot of redundancy in here with the same kind of controls, but it individualizes all of that stuff. We have our thermostat for our AC system and our heat. We have our rear and our front.
Off to the right, that's going to be our current room temperature. The smaller number is going to be what we have it set at. Change that setting with the arrows there on the side. We have our cool option here for the rear. If we don't want that AC to cut on, we just turn that cool off. We have our fan option here. We can go ahead and kick on just the fan if we want to just circulate air, high or low. And then we have auto. Auto is going to kick that fan on and off when, according to what that thermostat wants to do. If our cool option kicks on, that fan, of course, is going to kick on. If we want that fan to run all the time, regardless of whether that compressor is kicked in, hit that high button, that fan's going to run all the time, or low as well. We have our front AC, going to work the exact same based on our cool, but we also have a heat pump on this system. That heat pump will kick on and basically it reverses the compressor on here. So you'll actually have heat come out of that front AC. Now this is only good for knocking the chill out of your room. This isn't going to bring your unit down to warmer temperatures. If it's 32 degrees in your unit, it's just not going to work. It's not going to keep up. This is more for around 50 to 60 degrees, knock that chill out. You can kick that on and that hot air will, or warm air I should say, will be coming out of the vents of your AC. Auto, high, low, all that stuff, same as what's over here. You can hit auto right here and that AC will cycle between cool and heat pump as far as what your current temperature is. So if you have it set at 69 and it drops down to 60, your heat pump will kick in. If it is at 75, your cool will kick in. So it based on the different temperatures that you might have inside your unit according to where you are. Now your furnace, on the other hand, is going to be gas. This is what you're going to kick in whenever you have extreme cold temperatures. So if it's anything real cold, want to kick that furnace on, that is going to be gas activated in there. According to whatever our temperature is on our front, that will kick in. It won't have anything to do with our rear air here. That rear air is going to be on its own. Your front air is going to be your control for your furnace. So furnace is only going to work off at the front, but it will heat your entire unit. Vents, we have our bathroom vent. We can kick it on right there as well. Moving on, our next screen is going to be for our slide outs on our awning. So for our Jayco system, our ignition needs to be off. It doesn't matter for the emergency brake. You hit extend or retract to be able to run that slide in or out, extend or retract to run that slide in or out. And then of course we have our patio that would be overridden by our engine. If our engine is on, none of this stuff is going to work. Now both of our slide outs are going to be above floor slide out systems. So if you want more information on how to override those, you can find that in our helpful hacks section on Great American RV YouTube channel. Our last screen is going to be our settings screen. We have our mobile app. If we want to download that, that's that mirror app. We can go ahead and put our ID code in, our PIN number, and we can operate some of these items from that mirror app. We have network diagnostics. This runs through our G12 panel, and basically this just runs you through what is active on our system. Mainly use this for diagnostics. You can hit faults. It'll tell you if there's any faults in the system. Once again, not much to look at in here. That is mainly used for diagnostics if you're on the phone with tech support. So here we have our screen brightness. We can go ahead and change what that is. Clean mode, we go ahead and kick this screen off for 15 seconds. We can go ahead and wipe that screen and clean it without it actually going into any menus or anything like that. Of course, after that time is up, we'll have access to our screen again. Now here we can change Fahrenheit, Celsius for our temperature units. Our 4UG, that is going to be our floor plan on here. You don't want to go in and mess with any of that. We have our time that we can go ahead and change here as well for our appropriate time inside our unit. Of course, you can also change it to the military time as well. All right, our bedroom, not too much to go over. We do have our 110 main breakers right here. Our 110 breakers, 12-volt fuse panel, all that there. If we have any issues with any of our 110 items, want to come over here, check. They are all labeled as far as what they control. Same thing for our 12-volt fuses. So have any problems with 12 volts, we come right here as well. Over to the side, we're going to have a few more breakers in here. Washer, dryer, microwave, so on and so forth. Once again, all labeled and all right there under the bed. So come here first if we have any issues. From there, we go to either our generator breaker or our breaker there on the poles for not having any power in our unit.
Rest of our unit in our bedroom, we have more storage up under our TV, another connects TV in there, and of course our storage in all of our cabinets. Our bed does lift up. We have storage right there under our bed, our little latch that we can put under there. Under this pad right here, if we pull those screws out, that's going to be all of our electrical and stuff in there, so no storage in that front area. We do have wireless charging here on the side. Click that up where we have a little USB port right there on the side as well. Now, one thing I'll mention about our ceiling assemblies for our 2 Coleman ACs is we have vents right here on the side. These are quick dump vents. We open those up, air will come out of there and quickly cool off the area we're in. But if we want it to come out of our ceiling ducts, we need to make sure this is closed off so that air will flow there. We'll also have a couple of filters here. We pull these 2 tabs off right here. This will drop down. We need to clean those filters on a regular basis so we're not restricting air to our AC.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.